Roll swears.
And we're live.
We're live.
Excellent. You know? Brilliant. So yeah, we're at Pi Towers. Evan's getting all his swears out. We're at Pi Towers here in Cambridge, and we've been asking you all week to send your questions in for Eben, and we have them here. And so first, Evan's going to introduce himself in case people don't know who he is.
Yeah, my name's Eben. I'm one of the people who founded Raspberry Pi. I run a thing called Raspberry Pi Trading. So Raspberry Pi is a charity. You may not be aware. Raspberry Pi is a charity. And we have the charity has a wholly owned trading subsidiary, which designs the hardware and maintains the brand, and does the businessy bits and generates a lot of the money that the charity uses to do its good work. And that's the bit that I run. And yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about. We've got some great questions.
We have. I mean, one thing just to cover quickly. Obviously, you said a bit about trading and the foundation, but in regards to the Pi itself, obviously you're a creator, but you know there were other people involved.
There were lots of people.
So if you want to just kind of talk for a couple of minutes, maybe about the journey of how we got the Raspberry Pi.
Okay, so Raspberry Pi is it's about even the Raspberry Pi Foundation is 10 years old, right? So we incorporated the Raspberry Pi Foundation at the end of 2008. But this was an idea that had been kicking around for a couple of years before that, which was that we weren't getting anyone applying to computer science at the university here in Cambridge. So most of the people who are involved in getting Raspberry Pi off the ground are here, with the notable exception of Pete Lomas, who's up in Cheshire. We're all people one way or another who'd experienced this kind of decline in the level of interest in computing. And really Raspberry Pi is our attempt to make a piece of hardware that I had a BBC Micro when I was a kid. I know had Beebs or Spectrums or Commodore 64s. And really the Raspberry Pi is our attempt to make a machine that's a bit like that. Although substantially cheaper, right? My BBC Micro was, I got a very second-hand BBC Micro in 1989, and it cost me £220. And I emptied my I had a national savings account when that was the thing, and I emptied it out and spent the money on Beeb. So the idea was, can we make something that's like that, but that's modern, not just something which is a retro computer, and also something that's cheap enough that kids can afford to buy it, in the same way they can afford to buy textbooks. So that was the idea of Raspberry Pi. We incorporated the foundation in 2008, spent a few years trying to figure out what exactly, the idea was always to build something, but exactly what we were going to build wasn't obvious immediately. 2011, we got the first thing that you'd recognize as a Raspberry Pi, and that was the thing we showed to Rory. That's the thing that got us our 600,000 YouTube views in 2 days, and gave us the kick in the pants that we needed to actually get it out of the door. Launched in 2012, and then that in 2012, almost that in 2012. So that's a Raspberry Pi. That is a Raspberry Pi 1. It's actually a Rev B. It's a Rev 2 Raspberry Pi 1. You can tell it's got mounting holes. It was made in Wales. You can tell because it's made in the UK, but also because it's got the blue and yellow connector on there. Those are black on the Chinese made ones. So yeah, that came out in 2012, and then we've done a bunch of things, including Zero, but culminating in that, which is what we launched 2 weeks ago, which is a Raspberry Pi 3B+, something like 14 times the level of processing power between this and this, 4 times as much memory, rather far more. Faster wired networking, and of course this one picked up wireless along the way. So we've had this kind of weird journey of to help people out at Cambridge, and then you got selling 19 million.
19 million.
I need to not round up. Yeah. Because when the 20 is going to be a big deal for us, right? And so I need to not spend 20.
No. 19, that's 19 million is every time I have this conversation with someone about how many we've sold, it shocks me because it just keeps
we need to actually have a live because sometimes we tell the press a number, and then an article takes a couple of months to I mean, we were having 500,000 unit months quite often. So if it takes a couple of months to get an article out, then the number is stale by a million.
Cool. Excellent. Right, well, let's get on with some of the questions. So I've got them here. So we asked on Twitter and Reddit and Instagram and everywhere. So the first question comes from Albert Hickey on Twitter, and he's asked, any plans for 64-bit Raspbian? Because you've mentioned the possibility and...
Okay, so any plans for 64-bit Raspbian? Well, Raspbian, so I think the idea of 64-bit Raspbian doesn't make any sense because Raspbian is 32-bit Debian built for the ARM v6 processor that's in the first generation Raspberry Pi. So that's kind of what Raspbian is. If it was 64-bit, it would be 64-bit on Debian. So I guess maybe the question is, would we release a version of our operating environment that was built on top of the 64-bit on Debian packages? Not yet. Not yet. I mean, what works really well for us is, when we released 3 plus, we released an operating system image to go for it. We'll go on the same day, so stayed up late getting an image out. And the nice thing about that image is it runs on this, but it also runs on this and this, it even runs actually on the alpha boards. People have been doing Raspberry Pi, who've been with Raspberry Pi for a long time, will remember that there are something on the order of 50 of these alpha boards, which are the very simple stuff built for us before we did this one. And the image that we launched 2 weeks ago, First Class, runs on the alpha boards.
Oh. And
so that kind of like deep backwards compatibility is really important for us, kind of partly because we don't want to orphan our customers. If someone spent $35 on this, I don't really care that they spent $35 on this 5-6 years ago. Yeah. It was still $35, right? So we shouldn't throw them under a bus. So if we were going to do a 64-bit version, we'd want to keep doing the 32-bit version, and that would then mean that our efforts would be a little bit more diffused. We're still a very small engineering team. So never say never. If someone could demonstrate a benefit to it, we would do it. But right now, I think it feels, particularly when it feels like it would be mostly cost, a little benefit. It would be interesting if somebody in the community wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Certainly link to it.
Excellent. So that's the challenge to everyone that's watching right now.
It's the usual like smart ass, any kind of project that has lots of open source software, and when someone says, hey, how about this feature? You go, yeah, it's open source software, off you go.
Brilliant. And the other question that Albert had, we'll let him have 2.
Okay.
Is with the B+ being certified module and with Power over Ethernet, why would manufacturers continue to use the compute module?
Well, it's a form factor thing, right? The compute module is mostly about form factor. The very large numbers of people use, we reckon, people a year are using the big product in an industrial context. I mean, it's well engineered for that. And obviously, as you mentioned, this one's picked up modular certification and it's got the Wi-Fi on board. But there are use cases which can't accommodate this form factor. And so that's always been, so for example, the NEC display is a really good example. We have this great relationship with NEC we've had for a couple of years now, where a lot of their displays have a socket in the back you can plug a compute module into. That wouldn't work with this form factor. So it's a form factor thing. It continues to be a form factor thing.
Yeah. Excellent. I think that kind of leads into the next question, which is from Andy at Southend Tech, which is what are some industrial uses or products the Raspberry Pi is used with, and which Raspberry Pi models are most popular? That's kind of 2 questions, but so in regards to industry,
so we, obviously the NEC one's a great one, and that's an example of a much broader trend, which is Raspberry Pi digital signage. If you look at what, the new Raspberry Pis actually have pretty powerful processors. The original Raspberry Pi has, the GPU on the original Raspberry Pi is much more powerful than its processors. So the first things we found people doing with Raspberry Pi in the industry was signage, because an HDMI connector. That whole signage thing, it's something where I still go and look behind. Monitors when you go out. If you see a monitor in a station or an airport or a recording studio or something, and you look behind it, it's amazing how often you find a Raspberry Pi there, and it's amazing how early in the history of Raspberry Pi that started to be the case, right? So even sort of 2013, 2014, we're seeing lots of Raspberry Pis being synthesized. Another great one, of course, is the Los Alamos one. It's wonderful. Los Alamos have been building supercomputers and the Raspberry Pi is an industrial use case. And there the pitch is that the Raspberry Pis are using it as a scale model of a PC. So it has all the things. A lot of high-end supercomputers now are built basically out of white box hardware, just regular PCs connected together using some networking fabric. And the Pi is kind of a scale model of that. It has less processing, less network bandwidth, but less memory. But it has some of each. So for learning how to, if you don't want to let your apprentice supercomputer engineers loose on your real supercomputers that's busy doing supercomputing things, the Raspberry Pi, big box of Raspberry Pis is quite a good model for that.
Excellent, brilliant. And actually, when I flew back recently, I was on the train at Stansted going between the different places, and on the screen it was a Raspberry Pi because it obviously restarted.
Yes.
And that they're Universal Studios, I think, seen them as well. And
yes, I think it's a Harry Potter. Isn't there you have this one to wait in the queue.
Yeah, and that's they're everywhere.
It's sad, it's kind of on some level sad that you only notice them when they go wrong.
Yeah.
you see the Harry Potter thing crashed at the Raspberry desktop.
Yeah. That's cool. Right. So next question we've got was from Twitty's. I want to say Biru.
Biru. Well, that's beer in Japanese.
Oh, there you go. That's perfect. And that's in regards to a power button on the Pi.
Yeah.
So we've got. I mean, a lot of the questions that we've had for this have been in regards to things like power buttons and everything else. So yeah, power button on the Raspberry Pi.
Power button on the Raspberry Pi. I think once you start, when do you stop? I guess is the question. There's a whole bunch of things which would be useful. We don't have a power button on the Pi. We don't have a real-time clock on the Pi. We don't have an analog to digital converter. Those would be probably kind of three of the most common why don't you apps on the Pi. And the issue with them is they each cost a bit of money, and they each cost a bit of money. They're each only useful to a fairly small minority of users. And actually, I think even that minority of users wouldn't agree on quite what they want in the way of it. Some people would like a power switch, which is literally a physical analog switch between the 5-volt input V-bus on the board. Some people would like a power button which is more like a PC power button. You know, button on the front of your PC is very mediated. It's not a physical thing. And so I think there's no consensus about what sort of power button you want. And so the answer is accessories for all of those things. Accessories, and that way we're not taxing the 90% of people who don't want one. They're not paying a tax. We have this kind of way of figuring out whether to put features on, which is kind of divide through the cost by the fraction of people we want. So if you have a 20-cent if you have a 20-cent component that's going to be used by a fifth of people, then we treat that as if it's a $1 component. It has to fight its way in the bottom as if it's a $1 component, as if it's a $1 component that's used by everybody. And so, that's why, ADC is really interesting, right? ADC has stubbornly stayed off the BOM for a very, very long time. That's despite being a 10 to 20 cent component. That's because not everybody wants it. But the wonderful thing is it does mean that there's an opportunity to sell for other people, to sell ADC add-on cards.
There's some great kind of, I think Adafruit have a power button. And
they have an ADC, they have an RTC, and that's great. And that's another example of us not wanting to kind of hoover up all the money.
Yeah, excellent. Right, so then the next question is from Tane. Why? Do you think that Raspberry Pi is the future of Internet of Things? And that's the question that actually, when we were just talking about why Raspberry Pi happened to begin with. Obviously, there's lots of uses of the Raspberry Pi that aren't in education. And I think this is a great example when you talk about the Internet of Things and Raspberry Pi's use in it.
Yeah, so is Raspberry Pi the future? Absolutely, Raspberry Pi is the future of the Internet of Things. What's interesting, when people think about the Internet, a couple of mistakes, I guess, or misconceptions that people have about IoT at the moment is, one is people think about consumer IoT. So the Nest hasn't done anyone any favors here, right? And the first IoT thing that most people encounter is a thermostat. And then the other one is kind of about cost, and people think a lot about putting something in every light switch. Things have to be very, very cheap. And I guess in practice, a lot of the kind of early IoT examples of useful IoT stuff are industrial, commercial and industrial, not consumer. And a lot of them are quite expensive. A lot of the opportunities are that you can save so much money by putting automation into a factory that you don't need it. It doesn't need to be a 10 cent. You put something in a light switch, it's going to cost 10 cents, right? There's so much money available, so much benefit available from these kind of the early IoT applications that you can actually justify a $35 machine as your IoT node. So that's why I reckon last year roughly 2 million Raspberry Pis went into industrial commercial applications, and those are really mostly IoT type things. So I think we're the future of a particular slice of IoT. We will, in 10 years' time, we'll grab all the low-hanging fruit, and then it really will be the case that IoT, the remaining stuff in IoT, will be about putting 10-cent sensors everywhere. And maybe by then we'll have a 10-cent Raspberry Pi. For now, I think for now we're happy, and we do see a lot of opportunities.
Excellent. The next question is from Sam Wild, and that's in regards to internet security becoming more necessary. Will there be automated versions of Raspberry VPN on an SD card?
I think that there are people who, you go out and find distros which turn your Raspberry Pi into a VPN endpoint already. Would we do it ourselves? I mean, conceivably. I think, again, a little bit like the kind of power button. It's one of those things where there are a million things we could do. And so it's probably easiest to let the community do this. I mean, if we found, give you a counterexample, Kodi, we don't generally invest in optimizing particular use cases, but we did invest a bunch of money in optimizing Kodi to run well on the Raspberry Pi just because we found very, very large numbers of people using it. And so, if we find that, we're getting half a million people a year using the Raspberry Pi as a VPN endpoint, then probably A, we might invest some money in making it work better, and B, we might start featuring it on the website in the same way we've done with Kodi. But I think we're probably not there yet.
Excellent. Right, the next one is Abel22 on Reddit, who says, thanks for making such an awesome product. Just wondering.
Thank you for buying our awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for your custom.
Just wondering if you've ever seen any Pis running and doing important jobs out in the wild, and if so, how does it feel?
So it's that thing about looking behind displays. It's quite, we do some stuff, quite a lot of radio stuff. It's amazing how often you see them in radio recording studios. It just feels great. There's something wonderful about the, not just industrial, sort of the geographic spread as well. Particularly the Raspberry Pi desktop is quite distinctive, both in its previous incarnation with the grey background with the Raspberry Pi logo in the middle, and then the current one where we have the road, road picture, Greg Annandale's picture from Iceland, and so it's funny when you see it in places. Somebody sent me a video of teaching some kids in Pakistan, in the tribally administered territories in Pakistan, and it was just these kids sat there in this classroom with the just in the background had the Iceland picture up on the wall. So it feels great. I mean, it really does, and it feels great because when we were doing, even at this point, I mean, when we started sort of 2008, we were thinking, let's do 100, let's do 1,000 units, and get 1,000 right kids. Even when we were doing this, which felt big at the time, there was 100. We were talking about 100,000. I think the first order that went into Sony was 20,000 units, and most of those sold in the UK, in the US, and Western Europe. So just that kind of, it's the geographical spread as much as anything else that's exciting.
Excellent. Right, so the next one we've got. So this is the biggest question that we had. Pi 4.
Yeah, so we're actually announcing Pi 4 today.
Yeah, that's why you're all here.
Yeah, that's my surprise. Hope you didn't buy a Pi 3 Plus in the last no, that would have been awesome. Actually.
That would have been,
actually, interestingly, I have just happened. No, I mean Pi 4. There will be a Pi 4, obviously. Get asked about it a lot. I'm sticking to the guidance that I gave people, and we've been giving people fairly consistent guidance for a long time, which was that the Pi 3 be a 3-4-year kind of product. I wouldn't expect to see a Pi 4 this year, certainly. The ability to do the 3 Plus was a surprise, right? That that we were surprised that we've been able to get 200 megahertz more clock speed, to triple the wired and triple the wireless network performance and improve the thermals. And it was surprising that we could do all of that and still stick to the price point. So we've had this kind of midlife kicker for 3. All the stuff that we've always said about 3 remains true, which is we're up against the wall from a silicon perspective. We're at the end of what you can do with 40 nanometers. It's not that there aren't faster. It's not that there aren't faster ARM processors in terms of instructions per clock, and it's not that it's not that you couldn't clock the processor faster. It's simply you can't anticipate the energy, you can't anticipate the heat that every time you execute an instruction on these processors, and particularly on the faster out-of-order processors, you consume energy. You toggle transistors toggle your charging and discharging capacitors basically, and that consumes energy. We can't do any more on 14 nanometers. We obviously got a little packaging trick with 3 Plus to squeeze a little more that. But we really are done now. I honestly, scouts on that. I have nothing left on 40 nanometers. So we've got to go to a smaller process node. That's sort of 28 or further south. That's an order of magnitude more challenging from an engineering perspective than sticking larger processors onto the side. There's an element of cut and shut to how we've added processors to the 40 nanometer chip previously. And there's an order of magnitude more engineering effort, so engineering order of magnitude more risk, order of magnitude more cost, and all of those things are challenging. So we're going to look at it now. Yeah. I think about a little bit like B+. I mean, don't expect. That's the other thing. Don't expect the sort of gap that we had from Pi 1 B+ to Pi 2. Pi 1 B+ was only really the lead product for about 6 months. This is not a 6 month gap, but we are turning our attention to it. I think for the first 6 months or so, we're just going to be trying to figure out what people want from a Pi 4. We are listening. I mean, when we see the comments on Pi 3+, and people say, yeah, we like Pi 3+, but we'd love it if you were able to fit this in. Yeah. We are listening, and so I'm hoping by sort of halfway through the sort of early autumn time, we should have an idea of what we want to put in the Pi 4, but it's kind of a long road from that to having an actual product.
Plus, everyone needs to take a holiday after 3B+. Everyone needs a break.
Everyone needs a break after 3B+. I mean, I shouldn't be looking tired. I mean, the engineering team, James and Roger, should be looking tired because it was Pi 3+. It's kind of a turn it all up to 11 product, right? And when you turn engineering up to 11, it gets you expose yourself to risk. And if you simultaneously turn up the processor speed, various aspects of the design, improve the thermals, and then two networking things, you turn all those up to 11, you find challenges. So I think everyone here would agree that 3+ has been the hardest product to get out of the door. It's also the product we're proudest of. Everyone needs a rest, particularly Roger.
Yes, Roger definitely.
Roger needs a rest.
We won't let him back
somehow he's still in the office.
It's a
bit of a cost of recruiting.
Yeah. So the next question, another one that we got asked a lot, is in regards to the 0 and going smaller than 0.
Wow.
Which I didn't
see that coming.
Yeah.
Look, I mean, the challenge with 0 is that you can see. I mean, a little bit. Actually, it's also true of Raspberry, of the big Raspberry Pi. We're periphery limited.
Yeah.
Right, so each of these products is periphery limited. If you run your hand around the edge of the board, there's no point on the edge of that board that doesn't have something there. The same is true of 0. And so really the question about can you ever do anything smaller than 0 is what feature are you prepared to throw out at 0 to get that. Now, I mean, you could certainly, it's a single-sided board, so you could imagine folding the circuitry from here. There are some challenges with the radio, but you can imagine folding that circuitry under here, so you can probably halve your PCB area, but then you've run out of space for connectors around the edge. So, what could you do? You could, you'd have to give up you'd end up having to go with some GPIO. Yeah. I suppose you could go back to the 26 pin, the classic. You go back to that pin out. I suppose. Kind of weird. But you could give up the camera connector, I suppose, or you could use the camera connector to some sort of vertical connector. Go to micro HDMI from mini HDMI. It's a thicker connector that you could do that. What else could you do? I guess you could. That's almost should be done with SD card. It's SD card, right?
It's kind of the perfect little package. To go smaller is.
Well, you could say we wouldn't do SD card. You could say we'll just do USB boot.
Yeah.
Just do particularly with the if we could get the boot ROM from this into this chip, then you could just say we'll just do USB boot. I'm inventing a product live on air. But really, I mean, it's very close. I mean, and where might you get to? I mean, you might get to that.
Yeah.
And you'd have lost a bunch of GPIO to do it.
So that's like 2/3.
2/3, but it's hard to imagine you get to half.
Yeah.
Get rid of mounting holes, but given how much people screamed when we launched our original product that had no mounting holes, why have we got no mounting holes? Great thing with this was Pete was very unwilling, even with this one. He was very unwilling to call these mounting holes because what he was concerned about was that people would put a screw in there and tighten it up, and it would crush the PCB and damage the structure of the PCB and damage the tracking around these, because these holes actually have tracks in the person. I think he had some formulation for what he wanted us to call these holes. So we launched it just called Magic.
Just holes.
Holes.
Yeah.
Just holes. They're just aesthetic.
Yeah, the aesthetic.
They're just
go faster.
Yeah, that's it. Go faster holes.
Yeah.
You know, so,
Right. So last one really about the hardware is from Casey Sutherland on Instagram. He says, "What's the one feature that you wish you could outfit on the Pi but wouldn't be cost effective at this time?
Oh.
Your dream feature."
Dream feature. What would be a feature for the Pi? Well, I mean, more memory.
More memory.
More memory. I mean, there are obviously technical reasons why we don't have more memory on it, but there are also market reasons why we don't have more memory on it. Go look at what memory is.
Yes.
People ask, why doesn't the Raspberry have more memory on? Go look at go just search the DRAM price in Google. We're going through this incredible phase at the moment where we're very used to memory getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper with time. And of course, for the first bit of Raspberry, we really benefited from that. We went from 256. That's probably 512 actually, but 256 meg on the original product to a gig really quite quickly. So we went to 512, from 256 to 512 in about 6 months, and then we went to a gig in a little over 2 years after that. So we're in this wonderful regime, and since then everything's turned around. And RAM is expensive again now, driven I think by smartphones need more RAM. Cloud needs more RAM. We talked about Spectrum meltdown. Apparently, that's driving RAM demand because it's undermined people's confidence in virtualization. So, if you've got cloud platforms where you've been relying in the past on being able to share and put people together on a server, and have unrelated guests sharing on a virtualized platform on a server. Now, if you start to get panicky about how good your isolation between guests on a hypervisor is, all of a sudden you're thinking, I want my own silicon RAM, I want my own memory. And so you end up with, the nice thing about virtualization is you can share, effectively the central limit theorem, right? You rely on the fact that you've got two guests who aren't both going to be, you've got 10 guests, say you want 100 guests, they're not all going to use the maximum amount of plausible memory, so you can under provision against peak demand and let them trade off against each other. Of course, you can't do that if you only have one guest per machine. So that's been driving RAM demand up. So there's lots of factors that have been driving RAM demand up and push prices up. So yeah, that would be more memory. Would be one. What else? Machine learning would be interesting, right? There are machine learning accelerators, which would be interesting to put on a piece of hardware. But again, those really fail. I mentioned this heuristic we have for deciding whether we put something onto the board. Machine learning accelerators are many dollars, and they're not going to be used by everybody by any means. And so, kind of probably when you apply the heuristic to a machine learning chip, it's a $50 component, right? According to our heuristic. So probably, but that'd be lovely to do because there's one thing that I think we've always been a bit concerned about with teaching kids. But I think Sophie Wilson made this point rather well, is that there's a risk with devices like this that you're teaching people about what computers used to be on. Single core, fairly low performance, single core processor, and it's risky teaching kids that stuff. Whereas, at least we've taken, with this, with 4 cores, with sort of much more modern architecture, we've taken some steps towards teaching kids. This is very similar to the processor, and it's very similar to what's in a modern smartphone. So you are teaching people about the present now. It would be lovely to be able to, teach people a bit more about machine learning. So that's probably. I'm going to go for machine learning. Machine learning is my feature that isn't just more. More of what we already have.
Cool, excellent. Right. So in regards to, I guess we're kind of looking at the foundation. One of the questions, and this is something that I love. I don't know if I said already. I do the social media, so I get to see all these wonderful projects that's going on. Which citizen science projects using the Pi have most caught your attention?
Well, I like the wildlife camera ones actually. So Liz and I live out in the countryside. We live north of Cambridge, in a little village, and we're kind of surrounded. We're aware of being surrounded by sort of drive along at night, and occasionally an owl will swoop down and just fly along your headlights of it, and you can hear animals. And we're kind of conscious of being surrounded by nature, and yet you don't actually see a lot of it. And unless it gets squashed by a car, you don't tend to see it much of it, and you don't see it in its best line. So yeah, I like the nature cam walls. I haven't set one up myself, to my everlasting shame. I haven't set one up myself yet, and I do have swallows nesting in the outbuildings of my house. So I'd love to get a camera up there. But all of those, and there's a bunch of them ranging from really very so some very professional products to people taking a Raspberry Pi and a camera in a plywood box. So those are good fun. It was Meteor Pi, which was quite good fun. That was the sort of distributed meteor observatory that was run by the Science Centre here in Cambridge. And I'm going to disgrace myself by forgetting its name. The seismometer.
The shape.
Raspberry Shape.
Yeah.
That's it. I think it was something like that. Yeah, I mean that sort of thing is really nice. And we have one of those. And awfully, we had the earthquake in South Wales, and Mike Buffon, our Director of Product Management, had been to see the Raspberry Shape people down in London, and had gone home and had not set up. He literally had one in his possession, and he hadn't got around to setting it up. He's going to set it up the next day, and he missed this earthquake, which is probably going to be the most significant seismic event that he could feel in his house for in his lifetime.
We should get one at our US office. I don't know if
we should.
I would imagine Matt's got one, but Matt, if you're watching.
Well, I have a mother who is terror. Every time I tell her I'm going to the Bay Area, she is always terrified that I'm going to get hit by the big one. So we don't like to talk about.
Hopefully she's not watching.
No, hopefully she's not. Mom, if you are watching, I never go to California.
Yeah, he's here.
When I say I'm in California, I'm actually in New York. Don't have.
Less shaky.
Less shaky.
Less shaky in New York. Yeah.
I'm right on the top of a massive 1,000-mile wide block of granite.
Yeah. They're fine.
Yeah, it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, there's also some great ones as well. Like, in fact, today we asked for people to share links to their nature cams. So if you go on our Twitter, there are some links from people in the community who've got them set up with swallows and everything. Eben one day will set his up and we'll share that as well. So the next one, this is by far the cutest, loveliest tweet that we had from Oscar Sarabando, saying, "How does it feel to go to bed every day knowing you've changed the world for the better in such a massive way?"
Wow, that's lovely.
Yeah.
And the answer, of course, is my face just hits the pillow.
You don't have time to think about it.
I don't have time to think about it. As the pillow is approaching my face, I'm like, yes, everything's good. No, I mean it's good though, isn't it? Right? Because I tell you what feels really good is that when we started doing this in 2006, really, nobody else was talking about this. That we were in a really bad way. I mean, we'd seen a collapse in the number of 600 applicants for computer science at Cambridge in 1999 down to 200 to 250 by 2008, and that's not just a Cambridge number. That reflected an entire shift in mood around technology, right? That it reflected a move away from technology as a thing you do to being a thing that you have done to you. I mean, it was problematic in lots of ways. It was problematic from the point of view of the economy, industry, academia. Problematic from the point of view of the individuals involved. We always say the wonderful thing about STEM computing and STEM subjects in particular is that, sort of in general, is that can't fake being good at them.
Yeah.
If your dad gets you a job in, there's a lot of industries where your dad can get you a job based on who knows, and then you can kind of muddle along and it's all fine. If your dad gets you a job building bridges and you suck at it, after the first or second bridge falls down, then you probably aren't going to be building any bridges anymore. And so the wonderful thing about tech is the egalitarian. Is the potential, the opportunities still sometimes not well distributed, but there's a wonderful egalitarian thing about this. So there's lots of reasons why moving from children the ability to learn to do STEM subjects and learn to be programmers is a bad thing. And we felt we were the only people talking about it. What's the wonderful thing is that lots of other people kind of realised it about the same time. So by the time we're launching Raspberry Pi in 2012, there's this enormous movement going on, the Code Club, for example.
Yes.
Claire and Linda launched Code Club 2 or 3 months after we I remember being at Founders Forum in 2012 when they turned up and they got Prince Andrew and Tim Berners-Lee and Martha and Brent and a bunch of other people to shoot this amazing video for them, which is still kicking around on YouTube. Their initial advert. And so there's a lot of other kind of dojo came along. Obviously, there's lots and lots and lots of organisations trying to solve the same problem in different ways at the same time. So what feels really, really good is that we've been able to do this as part of this enormous community. Some bits of that community have subsequently become part of the Raspberry Pi world. So we've merged with Code Club, we've merged with Code Dojo, and we continue to work alongside a lot of these other organisations. So that's what in the 2 seconds that it takes me to fall from being like this to being like this. That's what I think.
That's what I think about.
It's
good. It's wonderful, and it's so nice seeing it. People sharing stuff on social and seeing amazing things. It's
and it gets us through the hard days, because there are hard days, and I want to again. A lot of the hard days are experienced by people who aren't me, experienced by people like Roger and James. But when you're having a bad day and someone tweets a picture of their kid learning to, it's nice. Please tweet more of those pictures, because they remind us why we're doing the things that we're doing.
Definitely. And again, there's a lovely picture that we tweeted today that you can see.
I saw it. No, I saw that. Wasn't it lovely?
So cute.
It's just so cute. Really sweet.
So we advertised this week. We advertised a program manager role in New Delhi, India.
Yes.
And one of the questions that was asked that subsequently became a question for this from Paul Smith was, did you ever think that Raspberry Pi would be advertising for program managers in India when you were bringing together the foundation?
No, I didn't. But if you told me we were going to be hiring them somewhere, India probably would have been quite close on my list, because of course, there's a lot of, obviously there's a massive IT industry in India. In a lot of ways, India, when we think about our interaction with emerging markets, India in a lot of ways is kind of the poster child for how we would like, I would love it if Kenya was like India. I would love it if I could outsource because you've got, Kenya's an interesting place. There's a lot of very, very bright people, a lot of very educated people, a lot of people with a lot of knowledge about technology, but I can't outsource my software engineering to Kenya in the same way that I can to Bangalore. And so probably India would have been well up there. There have been some wonderful deployments of Raspberry Pi already, obviously without our really direct involvement. Obviously, big deployments in Kerala in particular. And we do think we've got something that's useful for the Indian market. We're apart from anything else, Raspberry Pi is a machine for turning your television into a computer, and there are a lot of televisions in India that aren't computers. And so we do think that we've got a product which should be very well suited for that market. So hopefully, we have a product, and we also have a broader offering. We have programs, and we have clubs, and we have resources, and we have teacher training, and we have a body of experience in how you teach people. So we both have a physical commercial product and also a set of charitable offerings, which we think are a good fit for India. It's going to be massive. Actually, it's going to be enormous.
Yeah.
I used to work in India. I used to when I was doing my PhD, I ran out of money. Got married to Liz. And those were unrelated. Unrelated events. I got married to Liz, and
there's no way you can word this, and it's going to work out.
It's not going to work out because she's watching as well.
She'll run down the stairs in a minute.
So my PhD, like a lot of PhDs, overran. I had 3 years of funding. I got to the end of my 30, got married. I needed to pay for 4th and part of 5th year that I needed for my PhD. And one of the ways I did this was I sold software I ran a mobile games company and second mobile games company, and I sold some middleware technology to a company in Bombay. And so I'd been married about 3 weeks, and I abandoned Liz and went off to Bombay to teach people how to use this middleware that I'd written. But massive IT industry there. Something like Bombay, I wouldn't necessarily. When I think about sort of Indian IT, I don't necessarily immediately think Bombay, but massive IT industry there. They used to have really, really good fun out there. So I'm dying for a.
Is this literally that's why we've done this?
This is literally so I go back to India.
Yeah.
One of my very favorite places.
And then the last question we've got, apart from Helen, who's asked, do you not miss hills?
I do miss hills so badly. So I grew up all over the otherwise, but last part of my childhood in Ilkley, in Leeds. And yeah, I've been here in Cambridge. I've been here 22 years this autumn, and I still think when you look to one side, you see the horizon or trees or sky. You don't see a hill.
Yeah. See, I'm Cambridge through and through, so I don't like hills.
Yeah, I know hills.
For anyone that's watching
hills.
that doesn't know,
Castle Hill.
Castle
Hill.
Castle Hill's like this. We have no hills in Cambridge.
I'm going to cycle up Castle Hill. Literally, you can cycle up Castle Hill in the biggest ring on your bike just using kind of anaerobic energy in your lungs.
So the last question is from Mark Hardesty, which is, what is your favourite BBC type-in listing?
And I apologise for the phone. This is probably Liz calling me about the India thing. What is my favourite BBC type-in listing? Let's see. That's very persistent. Let's stop there. That's my favourite BBC type-in listing. There was a game called, I think it was called Codename Druid. I'm not sure if the game was called Codename Druid or if that was what was on the front cover. But there's a famous game for the BBC, called Codename Droid, which is the sequel to Striker's Run, which is kind of awesome game. And there was a type-in listing, which was kind of a multi-screen, sort of flick screen game called Codename Druid, which kind of a probably would have been at the bottom end of what you would have got as a commercial game. I remember typing that in. But what was really cool about it was the next month or 2 or 3 months later, the guy who wrote it did another article which talked about BBC's got 32k of RAM, and I think this was a mode 2 game, so you've got 20k video memory, so you've only got 12k of memory left over. And he kind of talked about, when he went through the memory map and talked about which operating system functions used which bits of memory, and therefore if you weren't going to do disk access, which bits of memory could you safely trample on and know that the operating system will come and override, and particularly zero page, which is the first 256 bytes of the address space, which is very precious for a variety of reasons. And so yeah, it was kind of one of those ones that started. It was a fun game, some sprite plotting routines, a bit of a geeky fascination with BBC Micro sprite plotting routines, because the video memory is arranged in this completely insane way that makes the routines very complicated. So it had nice sprite plotting routines, but it also had this nice tutorial, and that's kind of what I like. I think type-in listings are very good, and I'm very interested in type-in listings. We've got a copy of the annual there.
The annual.
Did you see the annual? I'm sure I saw the annual.
No, I don't think I've got one here.
We don't have the annual. So the annual has a type-in listing that I wrote for a Babbage versus Bugs game. I will say that's not the last type-in listing you're going to see in the next 12 months.
So if you're wondering about the annual, we released a Christmas annual.
Yes.
And as with all of our publications, you can download them for free. So if you head over, that was on the Magpie, so magpie.cc. You'll be able to download it and see what Eben's talking about.
Yeah, and if you download the PDF, you probably likely be able to cut and paste the type-in listing with a little bit of mucking about. You'll probably be able to cut and paste it into your favourite text editor.
Excellent.
Save yourself some time.
Brilliant. Excellent. Well, it was great to ask you questions. I hope everyone.
Great to be asked questions.
Yeah, it's nice. And I hope everyone that's watching has enjoyed. And if you've had any other questions, keep using the Ask Raspberry Pi hashtag. And as and when Eben walks past me, I will try and get answers for you. But yeah, so it's been great having you.
Jolly good.
Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed.
Take
Have a nice evening, guys.
Have a very good evening and a lovely Easter.
Yeah.